Good morning to all our people out there that is taken the time to join us this morning. I think first of all, let's start off with the tips to continually prevent COVID-19. Please always wear a mask when you're out in public. Wash your hands with soap or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Obviously, observe the social distancing. Cover your cough or sneeze with a flexed elbow or a tissue, and then throw the tissue in the bin. And clean and disinfect frequently used surfaces and objects. So I think with that said, Richard, you want to give us a quick word there?
Hi, morning, Gerrie. Yeah, no, just a good morning to all, and once again, thanks for having us and having me. Yeah, no, as we discussed or had a chat to just offline earlier, Gerrie, this is just a sort of a continuation as from last week with regards to the importance of the non-compliance notices that have recently been sort of revisited. I guess we've all been involved in kind of revisiting that and rewording it, etc., which you touched on last week. So it's vitally important, and it's such an awesome tool for the plumbers to have. So yeah, this is just a continuation, I guess, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Richard. Steve?
Yeah, morning everyone. Again, Richard and Kareem and everybody, thanks very much for getting up earlier than most. But yeah, let's jump into the session and welcome, and let's get moving on the session, and hopefully, all the attendees can take away a fair bit of knowledge with regards to how the new document is and what to look out for. So let's lock and load, okay?
Right, so let's get into it. So this morning we're going to look at the non-compliance for solar heating systems. And once again, guys, just remember that what we are doing here is not to replace the non-compliance notice when you log on. So let's just have a look at a couple of the SANS codes applicable when you do solar heating installations. And obviously number one is 10.10.6. which is the installation, maintenance, repair, replacement of domestic solar water heating systems. 10.254 that we all know regarding electrical geysers. 10.252, which is the water supply. 13.07, obviously specifically regarding domestic solar water heating systems. And then SANS 151, which points to fixed electrical storage water heaters. So those are the main ones. There's obviously a whole list of these. These are just the ones that we just mentioned in particular, specifically regarding these types of systems. Sorry, Richard. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of touch on that, and it's important, I think, to just understand that a solar system is subject to all of those standards, and it's a misconception. We're just looking at a solar, so that's 10.10.6 only.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we need to look at. It's not the case. You've got a geyser which needs to conform to 10254. You've got a water supply system around it that is 10252. The system, etc., etc. So it's vitally important to remember that there are multiple standards that you need to look at and reference when you are installing a solar system. So that's
100%. Thanks, Richard. So let's look at what 10.10.6 says regarding the certificate of compliance. And under section 9.1, it clearly states there, as quoted, a plumbing certificate of compliance from the plumbing professional body registered under the relevant body shall be issued for the installation, replacement, or repair of any plumbing works inspected or where work has been carried out on the hot water reticulation system, which includes the installation of the solar system. So guys, specifically when it comes to solar, it's important to understand that there's not really a negotiable regarding this. This is what the regulation says and what we need to abide to. Then if we go on to the next one, then we look at 10.10.6 regarding maintenance, repair, or replacement. And I specifically put this in here for the reason that we often come across an installation where a geyser needs to be replaced, and it oftentimes happens that somebody replaces the geyser whilst it's connected to a solar system, and then the problem starts. So in this instance, where you go to an existing installation, 4.4.2.2, any non-compliance to the standard and SANS 10254 of an installed water heater shall be reported by the person who carries out the maintenance, repair, or upgrade to the owner and user in writing, very similar to 10254. So once again, when you come across these pre-existing situations, please list the non-compliances so that you can make the client aware. And then obviously, if you do a new installation, you cannot list non-compliances. So once again, that comes to the fore. It's only for pre-existing situations in a solar geyser installation that you will be allowed, or that you can issue a non-compliance notice. Richard, I don't know if you want to add something there, or Steve maybe.
I'm happy to add something if Steve doesn't want to. I just wanted to say that, you know, sometimes, and I've come across this here, and I think we've all come across it, where a plumber, you know, the plumber is often forced into a corner on and I'll give you an example that I came across the other day. A brand new development that a plumber was asked to quote on installing a couple of hundred solar installations, and it was still on the plan phase. They had laid foundations for a couple of them, but it was the stage where you know, tenders were going out, etc. And the thing about this housing complex was that they were simple box houses with a pitched roof, just a normal pitched roof. But half of these things, about 150 of them, were east-west facing. And there was no ways for the plumber to actually install a fully compliant system. Yes, we know that the system installed on a west-facing roof, for example, will still work and provide hot water. But is it compliant? And the answer is no, it's not compliant. It will not comply because the standards are clear that it can't deviate by more than 45 degrees. So what does the plumber now do? So in that case, what he did was, well, what happened was, at the end of the day, the architect got involved, the engineer got involved, and between them, they completely absolved the plumber of all responsibility and basically took it upon their shoulders. So that, I suppose, is a form of non-compliance, but it's not something that you'd want to just willy-nilly say. It's only when you're absolutely got zero other chance and it's too late in the process, or whatever the case might be. So there are some instances. The point of the matter is that you've got to address these things. You can't just let it slide and say, oh, well, it's not my fault. You've got to address them, and somebody's got to say something about it. Yeah.
Yes, Richard, I think in that instance, you know, it's one of those situations where if it's an existing structure, and you know that it's not going to happen, this discussion needs to happen even at invoicing or tendering stage to mitigate the situation. So one's got to be careful that you don't step into things that's going to create a problem in the end when you need to do the compliance or the COC document. Okay, so let's see. So who may issue or can issue a COC for a solar geyser installation? And yeah, we need to be clear. It's only a licensed solar installer. So a qualified solar installer that is not registered with PIRB may not and cannot issue a COC. And you will see that if you're not registered at PIRB as a solar installer, you will not have access on the system when logging a COC for solar and even heat pump, if you know, when we get to that one. So the basic bottom line is that you will not be able to issue the COC. So it's very important that you need to have the knowledge and the credentials to be able to do this. And then in red right there at the bottom, do not work on a geyser which is connected to a solar collector if you are not qualified and registered at PIRB. Once again, You may make mistakes because you most probably don't understand the solar system, how it works, all the ins and outs of it. And number two, you'll not be able to issue a COC for that type of system. So just please be careful about this. And I'm one of the first people that understand you are being sent out on the weekend. The geyser is burst. Now you got to replace the geyser, and you jump in there and you just replace the tank. That's the moment it's connected to a solar collector. It's not just a geyser replacement. Now you're working on a solar system, and you need to have the knowledge, the experience to understand what you are doing and how to do this. I've recently had a situation where 250-liter tank burst on the weekend. The plumber, obviously trying to do good, went in there, replaced the 250 geyser with a 200-liter geyser, and then afterwards the problem started because now the solar collector is overpowering the system. It's too big, this, that, and the other. And that just points exactly to what we are saying, is that if your system, the total system, does not comply and is not adaptable to the new geyser, then you will enter into problems. And I can tell you that installation cost that plumber close to 25,000 Rand to rectify. So please be careful. Do not step into things and do not work on systems that you don't know and you don't have enough information about.
Steve, just come in there.
Sorry, sure.
Sorry, Steve, did you want to say something?
No, Richard, I'm good.
Okay. I just wanted to emphasize again, Gerrie, what you've just said, because you often hear the not argument, but the comment that, oh, but all I was asked to do was to change the tank. I have nothing to do with the solar system. Now, if you go back to what 10.10.6 says, it says when you work on a solar system, you shall maintain it or upgrade it to comply with a standard. Now, let's just think about that for a minute, because what is it saying? It's saying that as responsible plumbers, first of all, it's saying, look, guys, if you're not qualified, don't work on the solar system. If you are qualified, you're obliged to look at the state of the system and report back to the client about it. You've got to upgrade this thing to comply with a standard. We cannot just leave it in a non-functioning or dangerous state. They've placed the responsibility on our shoulders too, that when we go there, we have to upgrade that system to comply to the minimum requirements. So that's the reason. You cannot go in and just say, I'm replacing a tank, and that's the end of my responsibility. It's not. It is actually not. And if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know what a tempering valve is, if you don't know where the connections must go and where the pumps must be, etc., you're not going to get it right. And this is the crux of the matter.
Right. Anything from you, Steve?
Yeah, I think, look, I agree with both of you. And I think, the key component to this is that, rather err on the side of caution and, utilize the documentation that you have to ensure that you're covered. As you've said, Gerrie, and we've seen on numerous occasions where an individual's gone out under instruction from the insurer, for example, and then, when the audit's carried out, there are complications that come with it. So I think the key thing is, and I've said it before, is that, there are numerous ways for individuals to upskill themselves to be able to become and get the designation for solar and heat pump. So I think on the bucket list, and to enhance your business and do things correctly, that's the starting point.
Okay, so I'm going to just stop this one and go to the other document that we've got that we are actually talking about. All right, guys, so this is the document we are talking about. And once again, it's not replacing the non-compliance notice when you log into the system to log your COC. This is an additional document that we put together, maybe to assist you to understand the non-compliances easier, and also to explain it to the consumer. And because we find that a lot of times we know what the non-compliances are, but the terminology that we use is not always understandable to the consumer. And the standards and the Consumer Protection Act is clear that it needs to be in a language that the layman can understand. So that's why we thought it a good idea to put this together so that it will assist you. And maybe this will point more to the situation where you find it often that a client has had a system installed and he's not too sure whether the system actually complies, whether it works the way it should. And then they call in another person to come and have a look, do an inspection. And this would then be, in that situation, be the perfect document to use to point to non-compliances regarding the installation in front of you. So if we run through it quickly, at the top, obviously, the information of the client, the plumber, the COC, and the address. And there's just a quote of the standards. And then I think the classification of severity of possible results is quite important in this instance. Number one, you'll see we've color-coded the wording. So number one, once again, the red ones are the critical safety situations. Number two, the blue ones is the terms and conditions regarding warranties, guarantees, and insurance claims that may be voided, resulting in financial loss to the consumer. And the green ones, obviously, more pointing to energy savings, inconvenience, water loss, all those type of things. So once again, you'll see as we go through, number 1.1 there, again, pointing back to the SANS codes, the solar system needs to comply to 1307 and 151 regarding the tank. So I think we have addressed most of the aspects here that you might come across. And you will see we've split it up. This is about the system. Then we've got the solar collector. So, and you'll see there's a little tick box at the side there. So this is what you can use to indicate which of these required compliances in terms of the SANS codes are not compliant. So then we can also go down to the assembly of the system, the thermosiphoning, direct and indirect, pump systems, pump installations, the electrical installation, the controller, the timer, and the retrofit. So I think, you know, we've spent quite some time on this document, and I think we have addressed everything. But if there's anything else that you guys come across that has not been addressed here, please inform us. Let us, you know, then make this better. Let's improve it so that it is usable. And once again, at the bottom, there's obviously space for comments, the plumber's signature, the client's signature that he's received it, and the date on which it was issued. So I think it's fairly straightforward. Richard, you might want to, or Steve, you might want to add something to this.
I think, yeah, I think you've touched on it, but I think the document as we see it here is probably not at its final draft. It's probably not finalized. There's one or two little goedertjies that must still happen to neaten it up. But guys, yeah, this is basically, as Gerrie said, it is just a sort of a reference guide for you guys. You can even take a copy of it, you know, have your copies that you give to the client, but you can also have your own copy that you laminate and like keep in your van, you know, you just refer back to it and have a look and say, look, ma'am, this is the actual situation. There you can see this is the requirement, and then so it's a helpful guide. And I think we have pretty much covered most of the problem areas, but there might be, you know, it's probably not absolutely exhaustive. I mean, you probably won't find here that you know, Conex fitting isn't tightened properly. You know what I mean? So it's by no means absolutely exhaustive, but from a solar installation perspective, it's got all the critical stuff. It's got the safety stuff. It's got the performance stuff. It's got the materials and those sort of things.
Yes, Richard, yeah. So this document still needs to be nicely put together and cleaned up and obviously made ready for publication, which in all likelihood will happen in the first week of September. So once you got the document available on the system, and it will most probably be in the OPSA shop, you'd be able to download it and then make copies. And at that point in time, you should have a complete document and clean. And yes, Richard, as you say, you know, we cannot go back and address everything. And that's why 1.2 is there. The solar system installed in accordance with 10.252, 254. So, you know, if you know the basics of the geyser installation, then this is just an extension of that. So all those other compliances still needs to be adhered to. And once again, this document is put together in line with the standards. It's not about an opinion or what I think or what Richard has thought or somebody. It is all points to what is contained within the regulations to help you, to guide you to do the installation correctly in terms of the standard, and then obviously to be able to note non-compliances. So from me, once again, thank you very much for joining us this morning, for taking the time out. And all I can say is let's go out there, let's do the right thing for the right reasons, stay safe, and have fun while you're doing that. Thank you, Richard.
Gerry, you took the words out of my mouth. No, all the same, all exactly the same. Thanks for your attendance and have a fantastic week or what's left of it. And we'll see you next week.